Okay, hello. This is lesson number 18 in a series of lectures on how the United States is starting a new Cold War with Russia. Alright, and in this lesson, I want to give you proof that Russia is not the vast military threat. It's being exaggerated out of all proportion and reality to appear. Alright, so first I want to start off with a review. So Russia, as you recall, is not expansionist. Right? Russian expansionism is a fallacy. Russia is not expanding. Russia is contracting. Russia is being shoved back against the wall. Right? Remember, in Europe, all it has left is Belarus. Right? And all it has left in the Middle East is part of Syria. Right? Everything else has been stripped away. NATO's been encroaching upon them. Now, the Russian threat to European energy security is a fallacy. Europe has options that undermines any Russian leverage they have on them. So Russia doesn't have the market cornered. They don't have the market power. In fact, Russia is vulnerable to market loss both now and especially in the future with the advancement of cheaper non-carbon energy, wind and solar. Alright, thusly, Russia's energy market power is grossly exaggerated. They don't hold a gas axe over Europe's neck, right? In fact, the whole idea of, that they have leverage over Europe and this, right? If they try to they hold that same gas axe over their own head, right? Why? Because Europe has options it'll go to, and then Russia will be screwed, right? Now, I know I explained this with, my cursor's not working. Damn it. Something's not working. Alright, so I know I explained this, in great detail, right? And if you don't remember, I can't explain it all again. Alright, so now, U.S. is finger pointing at Russian villainy for hacking our government and meddling in our 2016 election, and that is a lying joke. When we do the same to them, we do the exact same crap to them, right? And more so, we conducted 17 other attacks threats, which are much more serious, including nuclear threats. All right. But, it's a whole idea of, we point the finger at the little twig in their eye, right? While we totally overlook the big-ass log jam in our own eye, right? Why? That's human nature. Why? Because human nature is self-serving. I'm good. I don't do it. Oh, you're doing evil, right? And that's what people do. They totally overlook the crap they do, right? And point the finger at other people. That's human nature. Alright, so U.S. claims of Russian aggression in Georgia in 2008 and Crimea in 2014 is a lie, given that Russia wasn't initiating. Russia was reacting. Russia wasn't trying to gain anything. They're trying not to lose something in both cases. Russia was not on the offensive. Russia was reacting defensively after being jammed with the threat of NATO expansion, all right, which affects military, which affects economics, all right? I mean, that's the bottom line. So the USA was instigating and initiating and jamming Russia with threats in classic get you again games. These games are played all the time, and it's just amazing that the masses never see it. Same old game played over and right over their heads. Right? They don't catch it. Alright, the idea is to provoke them and then to get them to react. When they react defensively, then you point the finger and exaggerate it into, oh, that's expansionism. They're trying to rebuild their glory days of their empire. Right? And I say, plus don't forget that Crimea, right? across the board is an irredenta. Alright. Then the U.S. claimed that Russia wants to strike west, conquer European countries, to rebuild its glorious empire is a farcical joke. Based upon what? Based upon Russian seizing of Crimea, which is a totally different, unrelated. You cannot correlate the two together. So now we'll examine how Russia lacks the military capacity to do that, conquer, to rebuild its empire, even if they wanted to. All right. Okay, so first thing here I want to look at is, this is going to be Cold War number 2. We had Cold War number 1 from the end of World War II. Well, you can say 1947 or so. Kind of started then, right? But up until the fall of the Soviet Union, and then we shifted to the War on Terror, right? Now the War on Terror is kind of fading out, so we're shifting back to another Cold War. All right, and it's going to be the King with No Clothes Part 2. All right, I say Part 2 because I'm saying the first Cold War was King with No Clothes 2. Now, a lot of people say, no, the first Cold War was real. The Soviet threat was real. I lived through it. Right? Okay, it was real, but in your minds. All right. Okay. So, King with No Clothes. Now, what's the meaning of this? Well, first thing is total bullshit, right? All right? Everyone say, oh, the king's got such lovely clothes, but the king is buck naked, so that's total bullshit, right? And then it also means, well, everyone believes the bullshit because everyone is saying it, right? Everyone say, oh, the king's got such, so everyone believes it because everyone's saying it. Now, what's that called? That's called social reality. That's total social reality. Works every time. All right. Now, so we're gonna. This is kind of an outline, 2-minute intro of the Russian military paper tiger. All right. How everyone's hyping up to be like, oh, such a serious threat. Bullshit. All right. So first, Russia doesn't spend. Damn it. Anywhere near the U.S. On military, materials and manpower, right? So this graph, I think this was data from like 2011, 12, 13, around there, different years here. All right, so here's what the U.S. spends, way up here. All right, here's China, here's Britain, here's Japan, here's Saudi Arabia. Oh, behind Saudi Arabia is Russia. Not as much as Saudi Arabia, right? Then you got Germany, India, France, Brazil, blah, 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 right? Okay? And the thing about it is, U.S. spends more on defense than the next 9 nations combined. So these are the top 10. If you add these up, U.S. spends more than all these combined, right? So Russia's, what they spend in the military is minuscule compared to, and they can't spend much. Why? Because Russia's GDP, what is the basis of your ability to finance your military? Well, your economy. And the U.S. GDP is 13 times the size of Russia. So Russia is only 1/13 of the U.S. They lack the fiscal ability to spend a lot on their military. All right. And then second, Russia has a long history of lousy, embarrassing military performance. Embarrassing. Crimean War, Russo-Japanese War. Japanese kicked ass and Russians bad, especially in naval, but also on ground. World War I. Finland. Russian invasion of Finland was at 39. That was like appalling. All right. First year of World War II, horrible. Afghanistan, they lost there. Right? Great Russian military, great Soviet military threat got beat by Afghanistan. Then 2 Chechen wars. Russia lost the first, and it took 10 years to get the second one under control. I think Russia will probably say, oh, we did this in 1 year. It took 10 years. Not until 2009 did they really, and it's still lingering today, problems over there. And then Georgia, horrible, right? The only war the Russians fought well was World War II, right? But that was because they faced Nazi genocide, and they started badly. Like I said, the first year was horrible, right? And they're largely saved by the vast frozen territory, the terrible winters in Russia. And, I mean, that's the best defensive asset, back in 1812 when Napoleon invaded, and also World War II, right? Right now, I've talked to people say, "Oh yeah, Russia's powerful. They got their their horrible winters." Well, maybe less so with global warming. That's a joke. But I mean, the thing about it is, right? How does that translate into an offensive weapon? You wonder how people think here. Like, oh yeah, they're powerful because they got the winter. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna pack their winter in a bomb and drop it on the country? I mean, come on, right? It's not an offensive weapon. I mean, it helps defensively when someone's invaded you. It doesn't help you offensively. If anything, it hurts you offensively. Why? Because you're maneuvering into their territory. You have long lines of communication, right? Stretched over cold. That's going to hurt you, the cold weather. Anyways. All right, so, and also what helped them was U.S. Lend-Lease. We kept our asses, going there to a large extent. I mean, they did a lot to transport their industries, across past over the Ural Mountains, right? That was amazing. But we helped them a lot. And then poor German outfitting. They weren't prepared for the winter. They didn't have winter clothes. I mean, these poor German soldiers freezing their, German soldiers were coming back without ears and nose, fingers and toes, and everything's frozen off. All right, and logistics. They didn't plan logistics. The Germans. It's just amazing. They're so great tactically in the field maneuvering, but they didn't understand the significant importance of logistics strategically. Burdened by immensely long supply lines, right? They're gonna, all right. So poor weapon and equipment quality, high diversity, right? These little boutique, quantities of highly variable different versions of the same weapon, fighter aircraft, which make logistical support for repair, maintenance very difficult, and poor material preparedness. We'll go through examples of this. And then historic military corruption, rife corruption in military and military procurement. They have a hybrid force, mostly of one-year conscripts with optional 2-year contract service. Right? I mean, 1-year conscripts. Of kids who don't want to do this. Right? What are you going to train them? How prepared are they going to be? So fiscal inability to finance a Western-style all-professional force. They're still relying upon a draft, right? Western nations all have all professional fighting forces, professional forces. So this is going to result in poor competence and low morale. They have a long history of mass desertions and conscription evasion, going back to the Crimean War, right, and up through Chechen War. Through the Chechen War, they had a lot of desertions. So, also a history of unpopular failed wars sparking revolutions. They're fighting a war. People don't like it. They're losing the war. Well, it kicks off a revolution, right? Russo-Japanese War, World War I, Afghanistan War. It was a key factor in the fall of the Soviet Union. And breakaway attempts. Chechnya breaking away multiple times. Constantly trying to break away. And Russia getting beat by Chechnya multiple times. Going back in history. Not just in the latest 2 wars. Going back, they're being beaten by these guys. All right. Objective analysis of what Russia would lose from military expansion. What's going to happen? They go out, try to strike out and take. Well, they're going to lose gas sales to Europe. Europe's going to be like, we're cutting you off. You're a threat. They're going to lose oil sales, right, to Europe. There's going to be economic sanctions. UN's going to slap big sanctions on them, all right? And then the cost of the war itself, not just in material and money, but also in people. Boys dying. and that causing domestic turmoil, likely internal revolution. I mean, that's not for sure, but you know what? Look at her history, right? Causes a lot of internal conflict in Russia. All right, provinces breaking away, like Chechnya, right? I mean, Russia goes and launches some adventuristic military offensive, right, for some bullshit reason, right? Right? First thing's going to happen, Chechenya's going to say, hey, the cat's away, the mice will play, and they're going to break free again. And can they afford that? No. You got gas and oil pipelines running through Chechnya. Right? Russian gas and Russian oil. Right? That's a soft underbelly. That's a vulnerability. Plus, right, there's little around Russia worth gaining, worth taking. The only thing we're taking is in the east, like Japan, South Korea, China. And you think Russia's going to take them? Russia's going to get its ass kicked, right? Especially Japan and South Korea. Well, China too, but they're going to have an amphibious invasion in Japan and South Korea, because the only other means is to go through China, then North Korea to get to South Korea, right? Well, they're going to have to go to the war with them, right? So, anyways, and everything else around them that they could take to rebuild their empire is not worth taking, right? What are you going to get from it? You're going to lose all this, and what are you going to... Nothing. Some crap economy, small GDP. I mean, it's just like, it's utterly stupid. I mean, no one thinks, it's like common sense, but no one thinks. All right. And then objective analysis of what's going to happen if Russia goes against NATO, right? A lot of those countries rebuild, right? Let's see, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, all part of NATO. Romania, Poland, all part of NATO, right? And then the non-NATO opposition. So let's say they want to take Belarus. Why? I don't know, it's crap, right? Ukraine, why? It's crap, right? Moldova, why? It's crap, right? Well, let's say they want to take it, right? Well, Ukraine and Belarus are big countries. Moldova's small, but they're gonna suffer long supply lines of communication, right? They're gonna be whacked by guerrilla hit and run tactics, okay? And the key thing is here, it's gonna be a proxy war. All the West to fight this, the West is gonna get involved. They don't have to have direct NATO. All they gotta do is fuel a proxy war, support the rebels against Russian occupied territory, which would bleed Russia dry with little effort, cost, or domestic political backlash in the West. Right? Why? Well, no one's going to be paying attention. It's going to be low visibility. Right? Maybe there'll be a news story on TV or something like that every now and then. Like a 1 minute little blurb, crap that the media puts out. Right? And no one's going to pay attention. Right? Most people aren't watching it, and those who watch it like yawn. What was that? I don't know what the hell was that. Right? No one's going to care. No U.S. boys are dying. Right? The cost is like minimal. Right? But it's going to bleed Russia dry. And here's the thing. Right? Russia got its ass kicked in Chechnya, in its own country, which is tiny. And that's without Western support. With no Western support. They themselves beat Russia. Well, it took 10 years for Russia to win the Second Chechen War, right? But they lost the first one to Chechnya, right? With Western support, it's going to be in a bigger country. Who's thinking here? It's like, all right. So again, king with no clothes. What I want to say. Okay, so I'm going to say this, and this is what's going to be most likely attacked. All right. So, okay, this stuff is very hard to attack. All right, people will try to attack, but what's easier to attack is going to be the Cold War. I'm saying the first Cold War was also king with no clothes. All right, and everyone's going to say, "Oh, people who lived through it are going to say it was real. I lived through it. Yeah, it was real in your minds, in your brains, right? But what is it? Social reality. King with no clothes. Oh, Oh, Russia's such a big military threat. Soviet Union's such a big military threat. Right? The king's got such beautiful clothes. So everyone believes him. To a large extent, the same king with no clothes applied to the Soviet military threat. During the First Cold War, all of the masses, I mean everyone, including our intelligence agencies, right, saw the Soviet Union as an immense, hegemonic military threat. Just massive and scary. Could roll across Europe if they wanted to. I stood alone saying they lacked offensive military potential. Now, I gotta say offensive. I mean, I can't explain all the differences between offensive and defensive, but it's huge, right? For example, when did Russia fight? Well, when they fought a defensive war, when they're invaded, when their lives are on the line, when they're facing Nazi genocide. Okay, they get together. When it's a war, you think the Russians are going to trust their politicians, right? They're going to say, these damn oligarchs are just doing something to get themselves rich. I'm not going to fight this damn war for them. I mean, Russians aren't like mindless drones that you get so many like rednecks in America that are, who just want to like beat their chest and wave the flag, right? Russia's going to say, screw this. I'm not fighting and dying for some oligarch to get rich. I stood alone, saying they lacked the offensive military. I said, hey, just look at the history of the military performances, right? Look at the revolutions from bad wars. It kicks off a revolution. Look at all the centrifugal particulates. Centrifugal is like outward throwing. It's spinning, throwing out. Particulates is like, individualistic, opposing, self-serving, different, forces, right? Threatening to blow that nation apart. There's big racial diversity, all sorts of race. There's all sorts of ethnic diversity, religious, interests, economic interests, nationalistic, independence, right? Linguistic. I mean, there's 13 nationally recognized languages. I think it was 13, as I recall. Right? The official languages of Russia were 13, and there's about 130 total spoken languages. I mean, that's crazy, 130. Now, Russian is the dominant language still, but there's all these other languages, and not everyone speaks it during the Soviet Union. Right? So when the Soviet Union fell apart, everyone was jaw-dropped, shocked, like, mouth hanging open, what the hell happened, right? And I'm thinking, you idiots, right? But I fully expected it, and I was proven correct, right? That people may say, well, the fall of a nation is not the same as the military. What the hell, right? How is the military going to last without backing of the nation? An adventuristic a major military offensive, especially against NATO, in which you're going to get its ass kicked, would both ensure and accelerate the Soviet Union's demise. All right? So the war in Afghanistan did it. Man, you didn't go against NATO, right? It's going to be far worse, far faster. No one looks at the real forces involved in war. People are geniuses for the superficial and trivial, and always suckers for social reality, right? And what is social reality? The blind leading the blind, right? Based on nothing, right? Based on crap that's a 10-second blurb written at the 4th grade level that any idiot can understand, right? And that dominates reality. So the outline of what I want to do, I want to first cover recent examples of poor military performance. Chechnya and Georgia, those wars there. 3 wars. 2 here, 1 of these are. Long history of poor military performance. I won't get in much detail here. I just pretty much review that list up there. Maybe I'll add a little bit more. Poor readiness. Right? Material, weapons, right? In fact, I should say poor material readiness. All right. And then endemic corruption, high conscription dependence, all right? Draft army, high desertions and conscription evasion. A lot of these guys, the last thing they want to do is serve in a damn 1 year. And there's a lot of people who are evading it. Revolutions caused by wars. All the revolutions caused by wars. Um, Breakaway attempts, like Chechnya, especially. Um, and there's nothing nearby that they can take or is worth taking. The only things that's worth taking, they can't take. They're not going to invade Japan or South Korea or China, right? And everything else is not worth taking, including all the, the ex Soviet, provinces in the south, all the different stands, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, whatever stand it is, right? Uzbekistan, right? And all those. And then nothing like in the West, right? Directly west. You got to go as far as Poland to get something that's decent economically, right? And then it's got to go through a whole bunch to get there. All right, so yeah, my cursor's still not working. My mouse. All right, that's it for that introduction.